And we are live. All right, folks, welcome back to the week here on Search Geek Speak. This week is, as we all know, much anticipated, I'm sure. It's been the talk of the town. Dixon Jones from Majestic SEO coming in to visit with us. He's on his whirlwind tour.
I really am. I really am. The alarm went off 30 minutes ago. I'm sitting in a very nice hotel room in Shanghai. Yeah. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, my time. I say my time. I don't know what my time is. I'm lost it all.
You just got there from Bermuda, and that was your at least vacation time. And then I think, yeah, you're zipping from, I guess Terry and I are Canadians, so you're zipping here from Canada down to the, I guess, see Carlos and the boys in the States. Well, Ammon. So yeah, so if anyone after the show can't get enough of Ammon, of Dixon, be sure to go join him, Ammon, Bill, and Carlos over on the Asusi chat in 2 hours.
Yeah, if there's a question you don't get out there, then that's fine. We'll try again in 2 hours. Although, bear in mind, I'll be 2 hours tireder then.
Yeah, you'll be exhausted. Yeah, you'll be going hoarse by then. And of course, Terry Van Horn, with his lower third. Yeah, well, we're excited. SEO Pros, SEO Dojo. How's it going, Terry?
Good, David.
Awesome. So I guess, yeah, Dixon, when we first were talking a month, I guess it was a month ago or whenever it was because of the whole topical flow thing we got going now. So, I figured that's the best place to start. We were playing around before the show even, so I'm sure you know your way around. But, yeah, that was really the thing I thought that was, most interesting, because topically categorizing things is a huge issue, and topical, as we know with links, on-topic links from authoritative sites, et cetera, generally you're going to have more, equity. I wouldn't, who knows if it's page rank or if it's authority or other scoring, it generally is going to carry more weight from authority and topical sites. So I guess that was the thinking, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, so what we did was, there were a couple of different things. Firstly, we sort of had assumed years ago that that Google probably does some kind of categorization, although there's not been any hard evidence of it, but we kind of felt that it would. And we felt that for our own attempts at building a search engine, which is something we haven't given up on. In fact, I think now we've got a step much closer. Maybe we can talk about it. But trying to build a search engine, we felt that in our first attempt, stuff was coming back. It was very easy to manipulate links because you could get a good link from a completely irrelevant website, and it didn't actually mean anything. When we looked at how we thought links were made up, we felt, or what the information and the signals that links gave, it was really about zones of control. SEO geeks tend to talk to SEO geeks, and SEO dojos tend to talk to other SEO dojos, and then we start to build up an area of expertise within a business vertical because we tend to link to each other within that vertical. And so that mounts up. And we took that idea and said, right, well, let's spread this idea of trust and say, right, well, let's define a bunch of websites that we know are in a certain vertical, and then work out how every other not every other website, but every other web page relates to those verticals. So what we did was we took about 800 verticals. So we started with, I'd say it was inspired by the DMOZ site structures. So we got the kind of site verticals that you might find in the top 2 or 3 levels of DMOZ. So business / economics / that sort of thing. It didn't quite work that way because they have so much regionalization that they put things into weird verticals. So we just took it as an inspiration and then improved it for our purposes. And then every day now, when we do our flow metrics calculations, we do a calculation not just on how important that web page is, the trust associated with that web page, but also that trust associated with that web page across 800 different categories. And that gives us a score of 800 different scores effectively for every single URL on the planet, and we've got 200 billion URLs in the Fresh Index. So, in fact, sorry, we've got more than that. But anyway, so you can imagine the kind of calculation that we're doing every day to try and get this information out. I say every day, it's taking a little bit longer than 24 hours. We probably need some more hardware in there to bring it down to a day, but it's still pretty quick. So, do you want to see how that comes out?
Oh, indeed. We already saw a little bit
before.
Right,
share my screen.
Let's fascinate the rest of the folks, man, because, there's some neat stuff.
So you're turning it over daily then, basically.
Screen share. Right.
Rogue One. Yeah, it's finicky. You got almost hover
More or less,
slowly.
yeah.
It's picky.
So it's yeah. Tell me when it's on, by the way.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, great. So another reason this is really important is that I don't know if you saw the video that Matt Cutts did start of last month. He actually talked about topical PageRank, so and some plans they've got coming down the line for this sort of idea. So it sounds to me like we might have actually got ahead of the game a little bit, and that they're sort of still to roll out some stuff.
And then there's even stuff like, again, you know what I mean, patents are patents, papers are papers. They even had some stuff on something called personalized PageRank, essentially. And the guy who wrote the patent actually ended up being the lead dev on the personalization team. And they would even look at people by demographics, what things they share, what things they follow, what things they do for a living, where they live, and so on and so on. And they were even looking at adjusting it for that. So this kind of topical stuff even works on that kind of level, meaning if you're appealing to your right market demographic, that's even going to affect things like a personalized PageRank, meaning that people are categorized by demographics, and that's kind of what you're doing as well. So.
Yeah, that's actually going to. Well, we think that's going to be the truth. So regardless of the search engine, these are going to be better results if you can work out where the context is of the influence that's coming in. So I've taken an example here of Senate.gov, and so what we saw before we developed topical trust flow was this number here, trust flow, which is a number out of 100, and it's to 91 out of 100. Senate.gov is the official Senate website, and our citation flow is actually lower than our trust, and that's a sign of a really powerful website when you're more trusted than your actual citation flow. So citation flow is a bit like the original sort of PageRank idea, but it's different maths, which is why our flow metrics, we know are our own logic and stuff, so it's not copying anybody else's stuff, so we kind of are on pretty good territory here. But the important thing here is that we can see that the trust flow now is broken down into different areas of business. So society/politics sounds perfect to me. It's got a flow of 88 out of 100, topical trust flow of 88 out of 100. For some reason, we've got home/personal finance in here at 51. But when you look at the overall website, 51, this is an logarithmic scale. So this 88 and this 87 stuff, this percentage of purple here is all the society stuff that's coming through, massive amount of society. So by the time we actually get to that personal finance, which still has a trust flow of 51, it's actually only contributing to less than 1%, 0.79% of the overall trust flow of the whole website. So understanding how this pie chart works compared to this stuff is important. And if you scroll along here, you can actually see how it relates to loads and loads of other business categories as well. So the Senate.gov is actually a really interesting website because within the website you've got all the senators' own web pages as well. So for example, boxer.senator.gov, and we just go and have a look at that one. We can talk about these permanent redirects and things in a second because they're blocking our bot. So boxer.senate.gov, this is Senator Boxer. And we can now see what he's influenced, what his website is, because they use subdomains. So boxer.senate.gov. He's also interested in society and politics and society and government. He's a bit more regional than the Senate itself, but he's also got an interest and influence in health and nursing, but nothing compared to his politics. But what you can actually do is in a bulk backlink checker, which if we've got time I'll go and have a look at, we can actually compare all the senators. In fact, I did it on a blog post. I compared all the senators to see what areas of society they were influential in. So you could use this, for example, to say, right, if I want to lobby my senator, or I wanted to lobby senators about a particular issue, and it's in health, for example, then you can see which senators are influential in the health space, for example. So it's a brilliant link building tool because you can find individuals you can put this on for.
So you could probably use that in the same way that you're thinking, as far as maybe like a New York Times or something looking at, you know what I mean, how it breaks down as far as which sections their readership's going to and what that might be influential in. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anything that's got that kind of breakdown category, or do they have to be subdomains, or can you still do that on a directory level?
You can do it at the URL level. So, for example, you can take an individual URL. So let's take Barack Obama's Twitter URL. Oh, God, I can't go onto Twitter because I'm in China. Hey! Bad example. But that's pretty cool. Okay, let me just put the URL into here. So if we take Barack Obama's Twitter profile, then we can see how influential he is in different areas. And as you might imagine, he's got society and politics, and he's as an individual URL. We've got information about him as an individual URL. Whereas if we take Lady Gaga, for example, oops, if I can get to Lady Gaga without getting to Lady Gaga, for example, let me just. So if I just put her in a different window. So she should come up with a very different profile, and she's coming up almost exclusively with arts and music, making up 98% of hers. So she's still influential, not quite as influential as Barack Obama, but totally different coloring here, and that's because her sphere of influence is totally different. So if you're trying to link build, then this has taken on a whole new meaning now, because you can go through and start finding out who's influential in what area. As you get to them, of course, you can start putting them into your putting the URLs into your buckets. I think add it to your bucket list and collect URLs. You can also do this around the web as well. So let's go and say have a look at a web page. Let's have a look at David Harry. And we can use this toolbar up here, and you can add people to your bucket list here, so you can sit there and say, right, I'm interested in that person as well. And I don't know if an individual post won't have any trust, but David Harry might have. Well, actually, I don't necessarily trust David Harry, so But apart from that, he would.
Yeah, like, well, that wasn't a gut. That's a bad call. But,
So the reason that we did that, if there's any questions coming on the screen or anything, Dave, can you just
pull back Barack Obama there and put the gypsy. Let's see what it says about my sorry ass. Okay,
now what I actually need to do is, how's your caps on your profile? This is better if you actually get the caps right, because Twitter uses a 200 response for any variation of the caps. So the right one is if we got the caps right. So you use the gypsy spell like that, or you've got capital G. Capital T.
I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, it's capital T, capital G.
Is it?
Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
So this is going to be better now. So I think. So I expect. No. Okay, I got that wrong.
Oh.
I think it's.
Have I spelled gypsy right?
Yeah, it looks like it, man. All right.
Try capital T, lowercase G.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's important to get that bit right, actually, if you want to do Twitter, because we didn't really build it for. Okay, well, it's coming in with a small.
No, it's all right.
So we haven't got many links into your Twitter profile, so we'll use this one now. But we still. Or maybe we've done a fix on this.
It is lowercase t, uppercase G.
Yep. Yes, there.
How many ways?
It just goes up that way. No way.
Okay. Okay. Well, we think you've.
It's even got worse now.
You're getting people linking to both versions of you, but we're getting the basic idea right. More about computers.
Web design.
Wow, dude. Right. Told me something. I learned something today. Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good day.
So Twitter results come back case sensitive, is what you're saying.
Well, there you go. There's something. We learned something here. Yeah.
They actually come back Well, they'll come back in any version, but they don't throw one to any one particular version. So it's a pain in the neck. If people are linking to different versions of your Twitter profile, different typos, then the chances are that the link juice isn't going to be spreading across those profiles, those versions. Let me just explain that though. If I was Google, I would have fixed that. But if I'm Majestic, I haven't yet. So we'll get round to modifying everything. Hey, I'm working with like 200 billion backlinks here, and Twitter's just one website. Did you know, in an average day, there's 500 million tweets, and on the same average day, we crawl 2 billion, 4 times as many web pages. So Twitter's just a fly in the ointment.
Well, I mean, anything you post on Twitter, you can add a power of 10 to for the reshares or the sites that just sit there and scrape Twitter, right? Is that about right?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
I said, isn't there about a factor of 10 for any tweet, because there's going to be roughly about 10 websites minimum that are going to scrape that tweet or repost it in somewhere where it's HTML crawlable outside the original Twitter account? Isn't that about right? Yeah,
sure. And to be honest, we don't crawl all of the tweets because we need a link to a tweet to go and find it. So we can find URLs like the Gypsy or Barack Obama because people are linking from websites, and that's where we're getting the signal from.
Some random update I made, no one linked to, you're not going to find it. So.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you put in, if you put in a URL that no one links to, then that's not going to give us any good data. So we've So you've got to actually get some kind of link equity coming in, and you can also do this with the path symbol. So these buttons up here are important. One of the reasons that a lot of people think that Ahrefs has got more data than us is because they don't realize that we're looking at the URL level by default, and they're looking on Ahrefs at the root level. So they click this button. So Ahrefs will give them everything for Twitter, and we're at the URL. But what we can do is use the path level here, and then all of the tweets that Barack Obama ever made now, or on that Twitter profile, are actually sub directories of that tweet. So hang on, let me go back. Did I get the right URL? I didn't, did I? Hang on. It's one of these. Oh, it must be that one. Let's try. No, that's not right either. But anyway, let's see what goes with that. Oh yeah, no, that's right. So now we can see actually. No, that's okay. I think that's okay. That's the most important tweet that Barack Obama has ever put out. We think is probably this one here, because those two are his actual URLs, or one's a redirect, and that's a Twitter URL. So I can't see it because I'm in China. But that's his 4 more years. That's his 4 more years post, which you can see from the blog. So it's there. If there's no questions, then.
Yeah, go ahead. I just.
Are you really in China, dude? Dixon, are you really in China today?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I'm in Shanghai. Yeah.
That's funny. That's awesome.
So every time I'm using Twitter as a weirdly enough though, very sophisticated China, because if you go to mobile.twitter.com, it was working for me earlier on. I don't know if it's still working now. So. I don't know if that's working. No, okay, they have blocked it now. But yeah, earlier on, mobile.twitter.com was working fine. But if you're using it through an app, you can use Twitter just fine. So it's kind of a weird one.
Also, before the show, you were actually searching terms, and that kind of stuff looked interesting too. The way the topical played into it.
Yes.
Yeah, so, we were looking at a friend of Terry's and stuff, and when you did that, there was that tropical thing to see what areas they are topically relevant for, so that gives you an idea where you want to be. I thought that was kind of neat too, if you're just putting in keywords.
So do you want to do you want me to use the term we had before going on, or just shall I use another term? Does anyone,
we'll go with something random. Just go with something random. That's what Terry's clients will stay away from that.
Okay, so if you go back to the home page, you've got to do this either from the home page or from this button here, Search Explorer. If you do it from within Site Explorer, so after you've done a link, then it's not going to work out that you're asking for a search for a phrase. But if you put in a phrase now, then we go to our Search Explorer instead of to our Site Explorer. So Site Explorer is analyzing the links, and now we're a search engine. So we came out with a search engine back in October, November, but it was still in alpha. It's now alpha 0.3. So we're still not there yet. Now we haven't actually yet embedded the insight that we can get from categorization or topicalization, but we have mapped that topicalization into the results now. I think our search results themselves is going to get a huge amount better when we actually put our categorization in. But now, if we put in a phrase, so put in cheap flights, for example, then we've got cheap flights, as you can see here, Skyscanner. So these are these are pretty good results. It's a pretty difficult search phrase, so this is good. But what we've got now is we can see what the websites are about. So these are primarily, this is the top, the primary topical trust flow. We didn't want to call it topical trust flow. It was just a bit too difficult to say. Whereas this one down here is actually education. So cheap air flights for you, we've kind of got down as education. I don't know why they've maybe got lots of EDU links. So what we've actually done is in this number here of the actual trust flow of the website, you can actually click on it and we can actually see what's happening. So these links don't seem to be particularly obvious. So they're not coming in the travel section. They're coming in from reference and education, society and issues. Yeah, they are getting links from travel, but then it's going off on shopping, food, and health. Whereas cheap flights is hopefully, number one is about recreation and travel. Business is second one, recreation outdoors. So these three together are making up a huge amount of the love, so to speak. So this is a much better result. So I think what we'll do is we'll start feeding this logic in, and we'll say, right, cheap flights itself as a keyword is more about travel than it is about health or education. So therefore we should put more emphasis on those categories, and that should improve our algorithm quite a lot. And I think that then we've got something which is quite new and different and quite powerful. So I'm going to come back to you now and see if there's any questions.
I guess one thing I wondered, when you look at a domain's all the topics coming into it, if you see some stuff that seems off topic, like not really tight to the core business or whatever, would you think that you're getting too many off-topic links then? Would that kind of be a warning signal, maybe?
Well, in honesty, I don't think that Google have particularly rolled out an algorithm that's categorizing. It's not doing a massive amount of penalization if you've got links from Russian gymnast sites or something at the moment.
No, not
except through
Dixon.
Yeah.
I'm thinking where they just ignore those links.
Yeah, I mean, I would, if I was Google, if I had that capability, it's obvious that Google now respect a lot less links than they did before, but when they do, then they're still giving a pretty good amount of juice to those links, and they're still really big signals. And Matt Cutts has come out at least twice in the last 12 months saying, yeah, links are still here, we can't get rid of the buggers, they're going to be here forever. And we tried to do traffic, we tried to do other stuff, it doesn't work. And they're right, because as Matt said, it's not about the traffic. The Wisconsin Real Estate Board is a very authoritative website, but no one goes to it. Whereas a porn site, everybody goes to it, and there's no authority to it at all. So the relevance between traffic and authority didn't work for them as a metric. And so that's why link signals are still pretty interesting. But until until recently, well, until TrustFlow came along, people were looking at links in a one-dimensional way and saying, right, you know, I can only count the number of links at best. I haven't got any meaning, and it's not about the number of links; it's about the way that juice flows through the web.
Well, when you're looking at trust and things of that nature and trying to layer that on top of other signals, are you considering non-link citations? Why I ask is because whenever someone starts talking links to me a lot of the time these days, they're like you just said, and that's why I brought it up, is they're myopic. They see link as one singular concept as opposed to the many things it is. So if you actually type define and link into Google, it comes back and gives a nice little description of what that is, and that's what I hand to people. Because to me, even implicit links, meaning no href, no actual site, you know, so a non-link citation, to me that's still a link of an entity to a concept. And I know that Google with semantic analysis and things of that nature, they do this. You know what I mean? So do you guys? So again, like I got mentioned in some publication last week, but being the way some of these bigger publications are, they don't like to give links out. I've been in the Wall Street Journal, you know what I mean? But it was Dave Harry from, you know, whatever, but it was no href, there's no link, but I'm still being someone mentioned on an authoritative site with a non-link citation. And so, you know, I know to a degree authority comes from that. You know, it's the same as maybe even a no-followed link. We may not follow the page rank, says Google, but there's enough talk about this person from trusted sources in my social graph. I think that maybe they're authority in this category, this topic.
So there's two things about that, actually. The first is, yes, we do, in that, but not very well. So we have we do actually track where we've seen people's URLs listed on a page, but they're not hyperlinked. So if somebody says google.com on a page but doesn't link to it, we will pick it up as what we call a mention. The problem is that that's only done when it's obviously a URL, and that's not so easy when they just say David Harry in the Wall Street Journal. We're not going to follow that. We're not going to make that association. Maybe Google can. I have my, you know, I don't know. But we do have that capability, and if you actually go to an advanced report and then filter and just go for what we call mentions, which we assume you don't want at all because they don't count, then we'll show you cases where we've seen citations to your site or to any URL. But the second part about that is Google doesn't necessarily have to work it all out for citations to work. Society will do it for them, which is a great thing about links. So when you're mentioned on the Wall Street Journal, that's going to create some kind of discussion. It's likely that you and your friends are going to link to the Wall Street Journal, making that article much more closely associated with you. If Google were to want to try and have links in a two-way direction, they'd pick this information up, I suppose, in some way. But we only treat links as a one-way street. But what it's going to do, of course, is, you know, it's going to increase your influence, and more people are going to talk about you and to you.
Right.
And they're talking about the Wall Street Journal.
All roads lead to Rome, and eventually you get more links from it. So it has that secondary effect.
Yes, you'll get links on pages saying David Harry got into the Wall Street Journal, and David Harry will then be linked to your site. So you still get
Google account or my whatever. Yeah.
That's the logic anyway.
Steve, did you want to throw anything in before I let Terry take away with some of his questions? Did you have anything there, Steve, before we move?
No, I mean it's interesting information. Of course, you know, now I know that Twitter's basically that we've now got case census, and I have to go fix a bunch of equations that I was using. But you know, I think that's some good information. You know, I mean, I think the big thing with what he's doing is, you know, is a different type of index. The other thing is it's not an index subject to SEO. It's more relevant factors in the world than focused on being SEO solely, which is where you have different problems. And by the way, thanks for the shout out to DMOZ. I did the Ontology. I was one of the first editors, so appreciate it. Go ahead. Other than that, I mean, that's where we created the whole business. I worked on business. I did health, and I did regional and DMOZ. I built the category. So thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, I was still I I still to this day I have some respect for Demos. I just, although you know, not so much for the way in which AOL has handled it since, to be honest with you.
Well, here's a thought. Here's a thought, and let's say this now before it ever happens. Theoretically, Google buys Yahoo. Someone over there figures out, oh, Google directory, Yahoo directory, let's put the two together. Then we have a whole different animal, and we're back to the old days again. But that's if, you know, Google buys Yahoo, but then why was there in the first place?
Let me put another thing back the other way. Is that what Demos was trying to do and what Yahoo directory was trying to do was categorize the web at the domain level, and what Majestic has now been able to do is categorize the web at the domain and the URL level algorithmically and categorize everything. What's the point of a directory now? So we've now done that categorization at a huge level. Now, what you can't do yet is you can't go to the directory on business stroke health stroke whatever and get a list, because we think that's valuable information. However, if you are IBM or Unica or AstraZeneca or whatever, and you want everybody in the health industry, I've got that data. I can't just get it out for you, but I can get it out for you. I can tell you every Twitter follower that's influential in health. I can tell you every website that's influential in health. I can tell you every country, everyone by every country. In theory. I'm not going to give it away for cheap.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it as Majestic SEO.
So you would make the scores public like Clout then, right? You would make the scores public.
So the scores are public for any URL. The scores are public for every URL, because if you do what you need to do, you don't even need to be logged in.
It's the deep dive you got to pay for, boys.
Oh yeah. But if I share my screen again, I see there's some questions up there, so we might have to stop and look at the questions. But even if I log out of this thing here and put in I'm putting the URL. So if I put in twitter.com, there we go, /Dixon Jones, do me. It'll say I'm about some dodgy. Oh no, it's not doing that. It's sitting there having a fight with me. It's decided to fight with my own system. So this is my the firewall again.
Can you do?
Because I can't put. Oh, what's happened there?
Can you do Google Plus?
Yeah, you can. I don't. Right. Okay. This little logo up here. This is what the Chinese firewall is throwing up at me whenever I put something in there. So good. So clearly something's happened to stop me currently looking at my own URL right now. So I'm not quite sure what's happened there. But it's not our system.
No, that's censorship.
No, I've got no idea.
Here's the question: are you violating rules in China by doing this?
Looks like.
No.
Okay. All right.
No, not at all.
We don't have to worry about them coming
what we might have done
halfway through the show. You know, they hang over there.
Just turn your camera around when it happens. Or actually, just turn it on the camera when it happens so he can watch.
Yeah, just come and knock on the door of the Langham. It's fine. So there we go. Right. Anyway, it's probably to do with being logged out and our own firewalls. But basically, we're not stopping individuals from seeing this data. When you give me the URL, if you give us the URL, then we'll give you the information about it. The extra layer comes in when you sit there and say, I don't actually know who are the most influential people in the Australian government on the subject of real estate. Can you tell me? And then I can hopefully find people eventually that have an interest in society in Australia and real estate at the same time, and find influential people, that sort of thing. But that's some time away, I think, really, to be honest. So anyway, let me get back to.
Where's my question? Hey Dixon, could I look up, say, the top 10 career searches in Bulgaria?
We're not at this stage. We're not giving you volume counts for regionally. So no. What you could do is you could type in careers into our keyword tool, and I don't know what comes back then, to be honest with you. But it wouldn't be related to Bulgaria at this stage. So we're not specifically being keyword research tool, not regionally anyway. So no.
And maybe I'm asking the wrong question. I'm thinking.
Maybe, what is the data you're after? Don't frame the question. Yeah, tell them what the data you're after is.
Let's say I have a multinational Fortune. I have to say 50 now. I can't say 5 anymore. Fortune, because that tells you who they are. A multinational Fortune 50 client, and I want to know what the top related career searches on in the top 20 EU metros.
No, this wouldn't be particularly good for that. What would be good for this would be good for, is telling you the people in Bulgaria who are most influential if they were to talk about careers in Bulgaria, for example. So that would be something that we could investigate and work on getting. So we're not chasing the links, we're chasing the influencers, really. KFC, really?
Can you track a hashtag then? Can you track it?
Only in so much as it comes. No, because it's not a URL as itself. So no, afraid not.
Well, but it would be a search result. There's a URL for the search result.
Yeah, but it's got a hash in it. So if it's got a hash in it, then it breaks off.
It would be translated to an ampersand.
So I don't think that's going to work. I mean, you could try. You could try and see where you go. It would have to get a lot of links to it to get to it, and possibly it would. We got a whole load of chat messages come in.
Okay, we got one here actually. We're from William Rock in our Q&A. With tool access, what should I be looking for? eBay.com sites or sites like losers and winners. What separates you from the rest of the tools like SEMrush? But you guys aren't really tracking rankings. I think that he's thinking like SEMrush or Searchmetrics or somebody like that.
Seriously, I mean, we don't track rankings, and we never have. And that's
so in your eyes, eBay would actually go up right now because people are talking about them. No?
That's quite possible. Yeah. I mean, we would have to track it. We would have to track rankings in our own search engine results if we're going to do that, which we're not doing at the moment because it's in too much of an alpha. So we can't necessarily see the winners and losers from an update. That's not what it's designed to do. And I've got to say, stuff like Searchmetrics, SEMrush are better for that. You're not
tracking Google. You're actually being your own Google. So.
Yeah, and it's a subtle, but we think it's a really, really important difference because one, Google says don't scrape our search results. I mean, so every system that tracks Google, probably every SEO, not every SEO, but half the SEOs in the world are tracking their own results using scrapers. The more sophisticated ones are tracking multiple results, not just their own, and that's the point at which Google starts getting a bit upset. So that makes everybody a black hat. But since we don't touch it, we obey robots.txt. I can see Steve waving his hand saying, "No, don't say that. No."
I don't. I do it manually. You know how I am. I do everything like that manually, and that's what. But except Majestic says it's one of our tools that's approved because your tool's within Google Webmaster Guidelines.
It does, and we spend. Thank you. And we spend quite a lot of time making sure that we're not going to trip on any kind of law as best as we can. You know, so one of the things that we looked at for ages and ages and ages is if we were to be a full-text search engine, would that be breaking the law? I know that Google does it and Bing does it, but are they breaking the law? I would suspect in many countries it's a very dubious question. So we decided that at this stage, links certainly were fine, probably titles is fine, snippets are fine. If we were to actually store all of this data, I don't know if we could sit there and make the same legal case that Google is Google is not always managing to make of storing other people's IP. So we don't do that at this stage. I think the point has come where clearly a search engine is allowed to be a search engine, and I think that robots.txt is a perfectly acceptable way for people to stop us if they wanted to do.
Terry,
yeah.
Terry, I know you had like a bloody laundry list there, man. So do you want to get a couple of years in before we run short on you? Because I know he's been playing away, digging at the tool, going, "Oh, there's this."
He's already answered, but these will help people out. Basically, how is primary topical trust flow calculated?
Okay, so it's just the first one in the list. So if we take this URL. Oh, hang on, let me go back to my screen, sorry. Apologize. So let me go away from Twitter because clearly China doesn't want me to do that. Let's go to... So if I go to DixonJones.com, not the biggest website in the world, but the primary trust flow, the primary topical trust topic is this one. It's the one that's highest up on the score. And even if they were both 21, the score would be different. So we work out unique scores for everything before we do a logarithmic calculation to turn everything into a 0 to 100 score. But you can see this is actually quite a good example of a website where I'm spread. So yes, I'm about web design and development, but it's my personal page as well. So arts and craft. I do play chess and do other bits and pieces as well. So that's coming in relatively close, it would appear. But bearing in mind this is logarithmic, it's nowhere near close because over 63% of my overall trust flow is computers, internet, and web design and development. Whereas by the time we get down to arts and crafts, it's 14%. So we've tried to display it in the best possible way that we can, but that's not always good. But I think it's pretty good, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And if you do scroll down here, all the other stuff that you used to see is still here. So that's all there as well. But yeah, in answer to your question, it's the top one. It's a primary topical trust.
You know what I just saw there?
Yeah.
That when I'm checking
Go on.
suspicious domains, bringing that up would show a guest blogging domain pretty quickly because you'd have a lot of low numbers on a whole bunch of categories. Correct? Basically.
Yeah, interesting point. So let's go and have a look at something like Mashable.
To you.
Yellow Pages.
So Mashable, actually. That should be pretty broad. And I'll tell you what, if we don't get that, then Facebook does. But I don't want to put Facebook in here in case somebody's sitting there saying you've mentioned the word Facebook.
Yellowpages.com, because that's the one.
Yellow Book.
Hey, Dixon, Yellow Pages just got filtered in Panda, so that should be interesting.
Okay. So what did they? Okay, I didn't. Yes, that's what happens when you travel around the world. You miss these things. So now we're seeing a lot more different color. Yes, we picked up that it's a directory. So it is, and it is. Let's face it. So it's fine. But after that, we start seeing a huge amount more color and a lot more variety. So we're seeing this is going on a lot further because we cut off at some point. But this is going on a lot further than most of the things in here. So I don't know how we put them there. And even when we get right down to the bottom, we're at 23.
And those numbers that are beside, that basically is showing the trust flow from the pages.
Yeah. So the way it works out, because this is done at the actual root level. If you chose an individual page within Yellow Pages, hopefully it will be a lot more targeted. Let's go and try and find out. So if I go and have a look at the top pages on Yellow Pages, let's go and have a look at, I don't know.
Not crawled.
Well, it's just too much stuff there. Let's go and have a look though. So this one, we know it's got some value. and it's an individual entry, but they've linked to their own page, so they've given themselves some kind of thing. So yeah, okay, so it's they've got so many pages that it kind of goes pretty broad pretty quickly. But it's a good example with the Yellow Pages, because you know, because it's about so many things. This is demonstrating that, you know, you can't be, you know, informationally the best at everything. You know, not even Google will be the best at everything. In fact, I should think hopefully we get Google right. Let's go and have a look.
Should be lots of color, no?
Yeah, okay. Google's pretty good. 90, 90, 90.
You would hope so.
Numbers beside are pretty important as well. So.
What about LinkedIn?
Yeah, Terry. Terry, you made a good point there. Because we calculate, you can't compare these numbers directly against each other, because we this calculation of 76 for society and government is made against all of the other URLs on the web for the category society and government. In other words, it's treated in its own vertical.
Right. That number is a metric. So that number is a metric compared to others in that niche, not compared to each other.
Yeah, and also, and that's and also, when you go to a URL level, then it's done as a URL within that niche. So you can't compare a URL's trust flow with a domain's trust flow, for example, because you're comparing apples and oranges, mathematically speaking.
Yeah. We got another question here. Interesting. I'll take it. So it's kind of interesting. Do TrustBook categories include regional?
They do,
indicators, and I guess what he's after is at a local search level. You know, how does TrustBook how could it be used, or what use is it, if any?
So, so what happened when we chose the original categories? We're still working. We can improve upon the categories. But what we found was that if you wanted to have, cheap flights is probably quite a good example. So if you've got a cheap flights as a search phrase, and you had a category for travel, that's great. It should go in there, right? But then if you decided to have a category for Europe and travel, and then another one for Northern Europe and or North America and travel, and China and travel, then all of a sudden, because you're not comparing like with like, you don't find you find a certain amount of this becomes less useful. So what we've done is we've taken away a lot of the regionalization in our original mindset. So we do have regional Europe, but you know, typically you would find sites that are about, you know, the EU, for example. So you know, .eu websites hopefully would be in the regional Europe kind of area. But what we do is make sure that we record where all those links are coming from anyway. So for example, since I'm on Google.com's profile, you can hang on, map. So what you can do is see where all those links are coming from in the world, and this is just one representation of it when it comes up. Okay, maybe doing it for Google is a slightly dangerous thing to do, but here we go. Okay, so this is actually showing the top 500 links for Google and where they come from in the world. So now you can sit there and say, right, these are, it's not necessarily the top actually, but anyway, these are where the links are coming in from, and they're pretty much a worldwide kind of focus. So in Russia, then racetake.ru is coming in and linking in, and so you can drill down on those. And so whilst this only shows you the top 1,000, we do record the IP numbers of all the links as well, and then we do a geo lookup as well. So if you had all of the links to, if you got a report that said give me all the links to a particular website, then in advanced settings you could filter that and say, right, just give me the ones that are based on an individual country. Yeah?
Good to know.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Have I lost people?
No, I got you. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Somebody along the way made a...
Did you say this was going to be half an hour?
What's that? Yeah, apparently not.
That's it.
Ooh, look, I'm everywhere.
It's going to be half an hour. Okay, that's all right.
I'm doubled up. All
He's
right.
holding up his bag.
See, William mentioned something earlier. He said, you know, you can get, he's still with them, SEMrush, Majestic.
Dixon, turn off your screen share.
Yeah. You're doubling me up, buddy. Which is all right. Now you got Steve. Yeah, Dix, turn off your screen share, man.
Turn off my screen share.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay. I thought
Just
I had.
click on the screen share button.
There he is. He's back. Well, it was almost a question, I guess. He says, with all the data and these tools and so on and so on, one has to be focused on what they understand from the data. This is where analysts like us come into play. And I think this is an important point we've always made, I think, over the years, Terry and Steve, I'm sure even Dix will agree here, but you almost go to a tool. It's okay to go and play with a tool. It's okay to do what Dix is doing and play around with stuff and gain insights. But generally speaking, when you're doing your job, you already know what kind of data you're looking for first, and then you go to the tool and try and extract it. Trying to go to a tool and expect it, you know, I think Raven suffered from this to a degree too, that people are expecting it to do the job for them. And that I don't think that's what Majestic is. You really, with so much data, so many ways to come at Majestic. You need to know what you're looking for, what questions you're looking to answer before you even get to Majestic. No?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think that there's certainly a learning curve with Majestic, but it's, you know, if you're in the industry, I think you'd be mad not to take the learning curve. If you just take the free, what Majestic offers are free. Unfortunately, the topical trust flow is not in the free account, but you get it in the silver, in the $50 account. So it's not, you know, it's not the end of the world. But it's worth learning what this tool can do, because you're right. You know, if you understand it properly, and if you want to understand the industry, there's a lot of tools out there that will just scrape other bits of ideas and data and come up with some things patched together. There's not that many original data sources out there. There's the ones that Google chooses to give you, the one that Bing's choose to give you, the ones that that other systems might be able to get from primary sources. But Majestic's one of them. Ahrefs is another, so understanding where they come and where they're going to as well, because I think where we're standing ahead right now is this ability to give insights with the topical trust flow, and there's a lot of other things that I just haven't got time to go into now with what we can do with that, and so we've started to try and put together some case studies. The videos, we're going to have to redo all of the videos, the training videos, but they're still worth doing, but they haven't got topical trust flow in them. But, you know, hey, so go and see Terry. Terry can sort of put them in there. Well, Terry, if you need me to, you know, to pitch in on some videos and stuff, then that'd be great. I don't mind doing that, because I think the biggest thing now for us, educating the community is the important thing, and until people understand and use the tool, they don't see how far ahead it is. That said, and it's an important proviso, our data is, of course, available in API. And so other people are taking and doing the thinking for people. So people like, I'll put BrightEdge out there as a major player, are taking our data, and instead of just recreating the data, they're trying to add layers of functionality, of insight. So
which reminds
they're
me,
taking our raw data source.
Reminds me, Dom said to say hello. And over at Linkrisk, they're also taking you the data, and they're doing their thing with your data.
So Linkrisk is a really good example, because they're using our Open Apps technology, and what that does is they say, so rather than them having to pay for the hose of all of our data, you know, which is what so BrightEdge have got all of our data, and they give us lots of money. We love them dearly, and they take our data, and they've paid the privilege of doing whatever they like. Linkrisk do it in different ways. So what they do is they don't pay us for our data. What they do is they link your account into their system. Now that's fine for me. I don't need to charge them, because you've already got an account as an individual.
Right.
So they can get all the same sort of.
You're just making it easier for me to take that data from point A and put it into point B.
Yeah,
so you want insight.
Customer.
We don't have to build every tool in the world. There's an army of developers. Yeah, army of developers out there who can build the tools, as long as they're building it on a robust API, which I think is better than building it on a not so robust scraper. And that's really where it comes in. So some interesting tools coming out. Link Risk is one of them. I think Removum uses this in a little bit as well. SEO Gadget, you can put our data into SEO Gadget stuff. Neil for Obama's SEO for Excel, you can go into there as well. There's someone in GitHub has done some stuff to make it really easy to connect to our stuff through API. And our French ambassadors built some stuff in Google Docs even that uses Open Apps as well.
Before I run out of time, I want to hit you with something, and I purposely left it till the end. But I've been on a bit of a negative. I've been on a bit of a negative SEO argument with Google and some stuff lately, and that's why I was talking to Dom this morning, because I was asking him about what things he can do to help the situation. So the situation is extremely large, 10-year-old site. According to you guys, has 1.5 million links, so it's a formidable sized link profile. You know what I mean? You can't even open that in Excel. It's not happening. It just chokes and dies and goes to hell. So what do you guys have now that I could get at that I don't know about, or coming in the future, or something of that nature? Let's say I'm in a position of proactively disavowing stuff, okay?
Yep.
And in this case, about 100,000 links rolled in over the last month. Looks like XRummer, comment, spam, mostly no followed, but whatever. In lieu of having to open up 1.5 million links and trying to figure out what was different this month from last month, do you guys have some way that almost weekly or something I could just get whatever the hell's new? Meaning that 10,000, somebody fired off 20,000 crappy links at a site, can I just get that 20,000 in a download, which I can go stuff into Dom's tool or somewhere else?
Yeah, you can. So what you can do is in the Site Explorer, we also have a new and lost tabs. I won't go back to the screen share because I think we got towards the end. But there's a new and lost links tab, and that will show you day by day, and so you can see the links that came in the last couple of days. Now because we have to do all the flow metrics on all of our links don't get put in minutes we could put our data in there.
That'd be like a maintenance thing I do weekly or something, depending on the size of the site and how fast the profiles grow.
Okay. So weekly you would certainly have this information coming to you, because you'd get it coming to you at least every couple of days, and hopefully every day. But what you can do, somewhere in our blog, maybe I can get the link for the URL for it. Francois actually did this. Francois Goub is our French ambassador, and he built this Google Doc, which would take that daily data, and then send you an email once a week with all of your new and lost links, which is pretty cool. So there's actually Google Docs out there that will do that for you. And if I can find it,
I want Google to have a list of all my links. I prefer that. Yes.
What I would say though is at that stage you should be really we will give you individual links, and it's really new domains that would be the beautiful thing. If you could see links from new domains, that would be an interesting thing to see.
Right.
Because individual links, you can disavow by domain by that stage, aren't you?
Exactly. That's what it's going to be in most cases. You just forget it, rip the whole domain because.
Yeah. So let me have a look.
I'm actually talking to Dom about this afterwards, so I'm going to go to Dom and we're going to, hey, Link Risk could have a new service by the end of the day. So proactive disavow.
I think that this is something that the Link Risk has really tried to do quite well. So they should have taken a lot of the headache out for you, but so you might not have to do this, but they could use the same stuff that's in the
is there a way, let's say in this instance where I get called in on a forensic job after the fact, so to speak, is there a way for me to go back 6 weeks and just get the new links from 6 weeks ago if I know within reason? Even like one first thing I did was obviously go plug the domain into Majestic, and I could see the bumps on the time graph where all this started. You know what I mean? It's very pronounced. I got a good sense of when it started. Can I go at this point and plug in and say, can you give me all the links from this day to today that you found?
Yeah, you can in a couple of different ways. The easiest thing to do is to do it over a up to 14-day period in the last 90 days. That's much easier to do because you can just do that with Inside Explorer. If you want to go back and see JCPenney's backlink structure and when they were in trouble 2 or 3 years ago, for those that are newer to SEO than that,
by the way,
then you'd have to go and get our.
By the way, that was one of the times I was in the Wall Street Journal with the JCPenney.
Oh, well, there you go.
We've looked at that profile.
So what goes around comes. So then you can get an advanced report and say, right, I want all links that were found between this date and this date. What I would say though is that the historic index has got quite a lot of deleted links and stuff in there. There's a lot of junk. We don't take it out of our data just because it's deleted. We flag it as deleted. But you can then go and say, right, I want links that were found between this date and this date. One of the things that does happen though is that people get confused about the fresh index and historic index because people think that the fresh index means new links. It doesn't. It means links that we have seen over a 90-day crawl cycle. So all old links should be in there. You know, if we haven't seen a link, if we haven't seen a URL for 90 days, it's either gone or so low in the world's priority list.
So this instance, I'm looking at about 6 weeks, so I'd still be looking at the fresh index then.
You'd be looking at the fresh index, and in order for something to get into the historic index, it has to have gone into the fresh index at some point first anyway. So you'll still find it in the fresh index. It's just that with those really, really, really bad links, you will occasionally find links that we did see 4 years ago. We couldn't be bothered to crawl again. A lot of Yellow Pages ones, I suspect, from that example earlier on. But they will occasionally pop back into the fresh index, and they won't actually have been new. We know they're not actually new, but we haven't seen them in the last 90 days, so they're new to the fresh index. So they could drop out and drop in again to the fresh index. So there's a little bit of an overlap, a memory effect that happens as a result of that. But the fresh index for most things is good, but when you're really looking at the rubbish, then sometimes you need to look at the historic as well. And I think one thing that LinkRisk does is dedupe. So you can take both indexes, and then it will go through and it will dedupe, and it will actually go and what it goes and does is it checks every single link. And I think other things do that as well. SEO Clarity, I think, do that as well. So there's
Bob Gladstein is letting us know here that if you connect your Majestic account to LinkRisk, it will alert you to new links as they come in and present them to you. There you go.
There you go. He's already written it.
There you go. I'll still be talking to Dom after this anyways, because, you know, I got to do serious.
I have a question. It's regarding, I was doing some research on some pages that I manage, and one of the things I was trying to do was to ascertain the quality of the links coming into a page. So what I did was I found on your site an article that talked about dividing citation flow by trust flow. And I found that works pretty good. Has that been your experience too, as far as identifying pages worth dropping and those worth keeping?
Yeah, it is useful. So to anyone listening, what that article talks about is the idea that if you want to work out how spammy a link is, then if you divide the trust flow by the citation flow, or you know, then you start to get an interesting metric of, you know, or variations around that theme. You get an interesting metric of how dubious the link profile is. The interesting thing, and the reason that we haven't made it more prominent on the site, is that it would appear that different industries have different amounts of spam. So in the verticals, the actual measurement might be different. So typically, our LimSam does demos to anybody that wants free demos and things, and she says, you know, if your citation flow is more than twice your trust flow, it's probably bad. You know, if a URL's citation flow is twice their trust flow, then it's bad. That's not a universal truth. But you know, it's, you know, in a natural world, citation flow and trust flow would merge to the same number at the holistic level. We don't measure citation flow at the topical level. So when consistently you've got sites with links that have got large citation flow and low trust, that's a dodgy sort of area. And those are the ones you want to look out for. But yes, it's based on that theme, you know. And you can actually, in the advanced reports, if you get really clever, you've probably got to work it all out a little bit. You can actually use what we call a delta in the advanced reports in the filter. So if I go, so you can go into the flow metrics part of the advanced report filters and say, I want all the links that are below a certain line. So if you look at the trust flow graph, and you've got a 45-degree line going up there, you could say, right, give me everything below that line. But also that same thing, you could sit there and say, right, I want everything that, let's take the angle of that line as 1/4 or something like that instead of 1/2, and give me everything below that line. So you can actually go and get all the links below a certain delta. So maybe I should write a blog post about that. I probably have.
You probably have. You sound like me. I think I wrote about that. I don't know. Where is it?
I just did it in Excel by putting a formula in that calculated it.
Yeah.
Show me all the pages right there. Bingo.
And that's all our Delta does as well. Yeah. So if you've got all the links out, then you can do it in Excel as well. Yeah.
All right. Steve,
am I allowed to go home?
Steve, Terry, you guys got anything else before we go? 207.
Just one last question. How do you manage large files in Excel? Cross your fingers. Hope you don't get one.
I don't manage large files in Excel, which is why we've got this web interface to this massive, great big database. And I do occasionally laugh when people say, "Oh, just give me all the links." I'll say, "Okay, so you can get 10 million links. That's not a problem. We can download it for you. You know, you know.
Good luck opening it.
Right.
You know. So
do you happen to know what the number is in Excel where it kind of cacks out?
I work even on my Mac Air. I can work with files of 1 million.
In Excel.
Yeah, modern Excel will go up to 1 million, and actually it only breaks down when your memory breaks down. So modern Excel on a decent machine will. I've worked with 1 million. I wouldn't like to work very long with 1 million. Trying to sort 1 million. Take some time. You might want to have a coffee.
So it's affected by your physical RAM as well. I didn't.
Yeah.
That was probably the problem.
They haven't put a limit in it. To be honest with you, anything over about 100,000, you're really going to start to struggle, and it's really a case of the power on your machine. But yeah, I wouldn't use Excel over that sort of level. And you know, at that stage, I would start looking at using Majestic's API, so you just take the data when you need it, or if you're not going to do that, well, there's always Hadoop.
Looking good. Thanks, Dixon. Always great having you on. Always pick up something new. So do the viewers. I know that.
Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll let you. Well, you got like 50 minutes until your next one. So yeah, folks.
Yeah, more coffee now. That one's
I'll drop a link into the next one on the event page, folks. I'll stick a link into this next one, which you'll be doing in about 50 minutes from now. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Terry, Steve, thanks for joining, man.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys.